After you finish this lesson, you'll know a few of the fundamental concepts and some of the vocabulary of chemistry, a subject that explains the behavior and properties of materials in terms of tiny, nearly indestructible particles called atoms. You'll also see the basic workings of the scientific method, which requires that all conclusions be based on objective reality, and that's one of the basic themes of this course. Finally, after you finish this lesson, you should be able to classify materials by looking at the atoms and molecules that they're composed of, how they're arranged, and what different types there are. Let's take a look at Calvin's show and tell before we get started. Now, he's trying to reveal a broader truth about life from a specific phenomenon, the melting of a snowflake. Now, sharp as his point might be about how conformity is enforced in traditional education, there are a couple of flaws in the physical side of his metaphor. See if you can state those flaws after you finish this lesson. So what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of matter and its transformations. What's matter? Matter is anything that's got a mass and a volume. So matter takes up some space and it will have some weight to it. Your computer monitor that you're watching this on is matter. But the light that's coming from it is not matter. Light does not have any mass. The information on the screen is very real, but that isn't matter either. It doesn't have mass and it doesn't have volume. What about transformations of matter? Well, matter can change from one form to another. There are a couple of kinds of transformations that a material can undergo. When the structure of the material changes but the composition doesn't, that's called a physical change. When both the structure and the composition of the material change, that's called a chemical reaction. So the difference between the two, a physical change doesn't change composition. A chemical reaction does change composition. Now, chemistry also focuses on connections between the molecular world and the large-scale world. For example, look at chemistry's explanation for what happens when the snowflake melts up here. Chemistry looks at the snowflake as being composed of little water molecules. And the water molecules in ice are arranged in a regular hexagonal pattern inside the snowflake. When the snowflake melts, it destroys that pattern, but those little H2O molecules in there are just the same as they were before. So what kind of change is that from what I said before? Is that a physical change or a chemical reaction when a snowflake melts?